Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Here we are again. A warm welcome to BBC Cardiff Singer of the World 2019. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you very much to our friends at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. This partnership between Cardiff Singer and the Royal Welsh College has grown and grown in recent years, and it's a really fantastic relationship, I think, for both the college and for Cardiff Singer. We are thrilled to be here in wonderful spaces like this, and of course in the Dorostowska Hall, where the Song Prize will be getting underway a bit later on. We start, though, well, I think we've set the bar very high with our first event in this year's competition, as we welcome two great stars who are also wonderfully two great friends and have been since they first met back in 1971. The mezzo-soprano Frederica Von Stade, we are thrilled to say, is on the Cardiff Singer jury this year. Dame Kiri to Kanawa needs little introduction as our distinguished patron. Please welcome them both. So let's go back to 1971 and Santa Fe in New Mexico. And there you are, appearing together for the first time in The Marriage of Figaro by Mozart. When did you actually first meet? Was it in Santa Fe itself?
It was in Santa Fe, yes. We're doing The Marriage of Figaro. And I remember the first time I heard Kiri, I thought, oh my gosh, why did they hire me? I can't do this. It was the most exquisite thing I'd ever heard in my life.
Well, we both felt the same. I looked at her and we both went,
And then didn't a cat bite you or something?
Yeah.
Something. There was it was a fun production though, and right away we started to have a good time.
Because there must be a bit of sort of dancing around when two singers meet in a production for the first time, sort of sizing each other up and working out whether people are going to be easy or whether they're going to make it tricky, whether they're going to be fun.
Well, I think Flicker's reputation, she's always been fun and she's always been a really nice person. But there are some who aren't, and I was lucky enough to have my best friend as a very nice person. I hope she feels the same about me.
I feel exactly the same way, exactly. But there is that first day and usually the first rehearsal for an opera is in a chorus room. Very often it's not anywhere near the stage that you're going to be on, and you're all listening to each other, and all of us are thinking the same thing, like, oh my God, they're really great. Wow, this is, how can I possibly do what I'm supposed to do?
No, but we were just starting out too. We were young, really young and raw. Yeah. And I think there was such a buzz between the two of us, wasn't there? Because we were so young and so starting off with this career and the great hopes and things and then everyone was I felt that we were the only ones on the planet.
Right, yeah. And with lots, Santa Fe is a little bit like Glyndebourne, in that it's young, it's basically young people, and there's a lot of support. There's a lot of people who are really rooting for you, and I feel that was very typical of our generation, that our agents, our managers, our teachers, our wig people, they were all it was very nurturing. I think it's a little harder now.
It doesn't happen now. Not really.
It doesn't happen.
As well, it's that thing about being away from everything. Rather like Glyndebourne, going to Santa Fe, it's not like singing in New York or singing in London where you can get away from the opera and you can see other friends. There, everything is focused on your colleagues.
But you were living it too. So you were not very far away. You were living at the Opera House or in your accommodation, or you were going for Sunday lunches. You were invited to so many amazing houses, weren't we? With glorious, dozens of us around a pool, and Bloody Marys and Virgin Marys and
Virgin or bloody, we won't get into that now. But that year, 71, big year for you, because you'd already sung a couple of roles. You sang Flower Maiden at Covent Garden and you'd sung Xenia in Boris Godunov, but it was December think in December the 1st, 1971, that you sang the Countess at Covent Garden for the first time. So it was very much a big role for you and a big year for you.
Well, the one thing was a year before that, I'd learnt the whole thing in Italian, and then when the Santa Fe came up, it had to be in English. So I had to switch very quickly and learn it into English, and then as soon as I got back from Santa Fe, I went back into the Italian.
And that's
language.
not easy.
No. But I was young and stupid, it didn't matter. Everything's all right, yeah, we just do it.
I know, what you don't know is...
Yes.
Yeah.
But now
We'll find
looking
it
back,
out.
you think, fool.
Then, 1973, you come together to do Figaro again at Glyndebourne.
If anybody knows John Copley's productions, you always saw him handing the handkerchief like that, and he'd said, keep the handkerchief, because I didn't know what to do with my hands. So he put a handkerchief, and then so the stripping of the handkerchief, yes, so it worked, that you looked like you were doing something, and without thinking, you could be doing something and look like it, and then your hands were in use. So the handkerchief he was always doing that, say, do this. So,
Yeah.
and the nervousness was in the hands all the time. Straps. Don't tell anyone, but there it is.
He is a wonderful
Oh, wonderful. And
John
he's
Copley.
still
But that's a wonderful illustration, isn't it, of his attention to detail.
Sure,
It's
sure.
not just the big picture, it's actually thinking about every single detail
Well,
of how
trying to
you as
get
a
you to
performer
concentrate on something else rather than, oh, what's she doing with her hands? You know, these sort of people doing this and being windmills. And the most important thing is actually get those hands out of the way.
That summer, Peter Hall was doing Ulysses as well. And in the beginning of the Il Ritorno d'Ulisse with Janet, the baker, the great, there was L'Umanità Fragilità, who was human frailty, and she was naked. She came on with a long wig. I mean, it was very proper, but there were quite a few stagehands sitting around saying, here comes the naked scene, you know. And Peter wanted Cherubino to, when they were doing the dressing aria, to be naked from the back down. And apparently Peter had walked the young artist around the little lake to convince her that she was going to take her clothes off. He wanted me to go naked. And he talked her into it, and I said, Peter, I know the story behind this. I know that you had a little walk around the lake, but for me to take off my shirt would have to be Lake Erie. I ain't gonna do it. It was so funny.
I don't know what it is with producers. They always have their clothes off.
Something.
Did you ever have anybody sort of do anything like this Me Too thing?
No.
Well,
No. But sometimes I'm a little insulted.
Did you, Kiri?
No, they did.
It never happened.
Never happened.
I'll ignore that question. But
You raised it. It's interesting that as a young artist, I mean, when you're more experienced and you've made your name, you're not going to be so worried about saying to a producer, I'm not going to do this. But this was at the beginning of your career.
I know.
But you do have certain standards.
Yeah, I mean, I just rather sensibly, I'm not going to take my clothes off.
You recorded Cherubino first in 1978 with Kellyanne conducting. Let's talk a bit about Conductors. What was he like?
He was actually terrific and very gentle, very gentle with his artists. He really kind of loved them and all the stuff that was with him. You know, there was this phalanx of circus that followed him everywhere. That was very harsh, but he himself was wonderful and I mean completely devoted to what he was doing. You know, so it was marvelous to see.
And you could break through that surface and get time with him one-on-one.
Right. And I always felt that he really loved the artists. He loved that, he was very good to them.
Yeah. I only did one performance with him at Figaro, but he was very good. But you had more to do with him.
I did, just one or two things, and you have to admire what he did.
Yeah. And then in 1981, you recorded the opera together with Schulte conducting, and one of those great sort of studio recordings that sadly aren't made anymore, and it's a great loss, that, isn't it? I think.
Well, whose fault is it?
Us for not
Yes.
buying the recordings, I guess.
No, I just think that they should be able to protect all those recordings because it's something that's terribly lost now. You know, young people can make a recording. Well, they're basically having to pay for it themselves and promote it themselves and sell it themselves in lots of ways in order to get their voices heard out there. That's why Cardiff Singer of the World is a wonderful exposure of our young up-and-coming singers. I'm so pleased, you know, and so proud to be here, as having Flickr, you know, to be here and just push those young people to where they should be. You know, they're all brilliant. I mean, each and every one of them last night was just so wonderful.
And more brilliant than ever, I find, you know, the young singers that I've come across, they're so exquisitely prepared and they're so finished. They're kind of like ready to go, which is just marvelous.
And then they don't always get the opportunity.
No.
That's the problem.
And then we don't have the recording to back up their performances, which we had, you know. And they were all mainly done in London, weren't they?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, when Joan Sutherland was alive, she was doing performances during the season of I suppose 6 weeks, and she's recording during the day. So all that she had this whole thing going on. I actually don't know how she did it, but she was amazing.
A lot of them made at Walthamstow Town Hall. That
Some
was
of
one
them, yes,
the-
but there were some of the Decca ones were made right at the Aldwych there, that old church.
And how would you prepare to make a recording like that when you hadn't been preparing the role in rehearsal for many weeks as you would for a stage production?
Right.
That you would come in and record it over a week or
Quite often
whatever.
you had done the role. You should have done the role.
You'd done the role on stage,
basically, yes,
but this would be the first time these forces would perhaps have come together.
Well, it was. You know, we were used to that. We were used to just slotting in. That was part of what we did. So, and sometimes, you know, we had to take someone's place. You learn to slot in very quickly.
Yeah. I always found that in recording, I thought I was making something so clear and I was overdoing it, and then I'd go back and listen to it and it was like, you know, and it wouldn't, you have to kind of almost overdo it to have it go into the
be very
mics.
intense
Very
with
intense,
the
very
sound, yeah.
clear and very specific.
I love it. Sometimes you just look back and say, "Gosh, I'd like to be 30 or 40 years younger," and you look back and think, "There it is."
What's it like seeing yourself now? I mean, I suppose that's one of the things that the technology means, YouTube and all of that. We can all just tap your names into our computer and up come all of these wonderful films.
I think if it does any good, it's nice that it's there. But if it doesn't, if it's a bad performance, you think, get it off.
Yeah.
But if it's a good performance, and young people sometimes look at it but not copy it, and they like it, because I look at Flickr, the way she sings it, I mean, it's a stream of sound. Well, you don't get that from young people. They're not taught to do that stream of sound like she produces. Not many people can sing the Caribbean aria like that. And it's the simplest, yet the most difficult arias to sing, yet the young people don't know how to do it, because they're not taught to sing the line like we were taught way back then.
Let's talk a bit about the earlier stages of your career before the great meeting in 1971 in Santa Fe. And one of the things that strikes me was very significant for both of you was your coming to Europe. Obviously, Kiri, you came from New Zealand in 1966 and got yourself a place to study straight away here. You grew up on the east coast of the United States, kind of a almost American royalty, I mean, a sort of grand American family, and then you went off to Paris, I think, first of all as a nanny when you were a teenager.
Yes. I was a nanny and a maid and a cleaning lady and
Still doing it.
and a sales girl. You got it. And they were all the roles I've done. It was the perfect preparation. It was. I mean, that was the best.
Yeah.
And I went to my first opera in Paris when I was there, and it was Carmen. And all I could think of was they had horses that went on stage, and I thought, what would it be to be a horse? To be on the stage of the Paris Opera, that would be great. But I had no clue about opera, none. Loved Broadway.
And you wanted to be a musical theatre person.
Broadway all the way, that's what
Me
was,
too.
yeah, just passionate.
You did summer stock, Beauty and the Beast, I think, in New Haven, Connecticut.
New Haven, Connecticut, off Broadway, about 300 miles off Broadway. But you know, it was a time on Broadway that was Ethel Merman and
Oh.
Mary Martin and just.
But
it
they
was
sang real voices.
and no miking.
No.
You know, and I went to every weekend. Went to a matinee, then went to a jazz place, and then went to a show at night. You know, and didn't. I thought opera at first. I thought, oh my gosh, it doesn't seem like much fun. But it is so much fun to do.
Well, it's harder work.
It is.
Yeah.
But it is staggering, isn't it, to think of those performers doing 8 shows a week
Yeah.
with, you know, now
Natural
people
voices.
mic'd and, you know, and filling 2,500 seat
I
theatres
know.
on Broadway.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. I was Ethel Merman's secretary for a day.
This
How'd
is
you
going to
get
be a
that
great
job?
story.
I was working at the Long Wharf Theater in Connecticut, and someone that worked there said her regular secretary is sick for the day, and I know I was a secretary, so would you go down and help her with her letters? And I took one letter and was like,
What was it?
it was like, "Dear Mr. Jones, thank you so much for your flowers," or something. And I was just like, and she talks like this. I mean, it's, you know, yeah, and if you just send that out and put a stamp on it, you know, it's. So it was pretty unmistakable.
But only one day.
Only one day.
One letter.
One
you get
letter.
paid?
When
Did
she
you get
paid
paid
me.
for it?
Yeah, she paid me
How
too.
much?
I can't remember.
Oh, you have to remember that.
I have to remember that.
God.
Yeah.
So how did you make this journey from wanting to have your name up in lights over a Broadway theatre to the opera? Some story about someone betting you $50
Oh,
to audition?
I couldn't read music, so I went to a little music school around the corner, and they said, I said, oh, there's no way I'll get in. I don't know anything. And they said, oh, well, just try. Go learn one aria, go audition and see what happens. And I got in. And then I remember going to my first theory class, and they said, would you please play 1-4-5-1 in the key of C, which is a very easy thing to do. I had no idea what they were talking about. Hadn't heard of Beethoven or Mozart, so you had the nuns.
The nuns.
The nuns.
Oh,
Yeah.
That wonderful system.
The
Yeah.
dragon nuns, yes. No, they were good. They were
good.
But oh my God, they were tough.
But you had this similar career
Yeah.
trajectory of doing pop songs, of being in a movie
That's all we knew.
in New Zealand
Yeah.
and,
Yeah,
and,
we
and doing
didn't
musical
have,
theatre.
we didn't have television. So we didn't get television until I was 14. So
Yeah.
of course I'm really not even social media person because we never had all those things,
Yeah.
and it doesn't interest me so much. So that's a sort of, I don't think I'm missing out, but I'm not technically like that.
Do you think that you both learnt something, though, by doing theatre and doing pop and doing musicals before coming into opera in terms of communication, in terms of being a stage animal? Is that
I think so.
something that you...
I mean, I think Kiri set a standard for singing, for using our sort of operatically trained voices in doing popular music. And you opened up the whole world of recording popular music for opera singers. You know, thanks to your West Side Story and all the wonderful, you know, pop music that you recorded, it meant that it opened it up for the rest of us, that we were asked to do
I think
things.
what you're trying to say is that we were limited. We were made to limit ourselves only to opera. I think that's what you're saying.
That we
And
built
that-
up walls
yes,
saying,
yes,
you're an
and
opera
you're
singer
not,
and
yeah,
that's
you don't
what you
do
do.
anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then I did different things until like Summertime on television.
Exactly.
You're not supposed to do that. I thought, come on.
Yeah.
So then I did all the other shows, and I think it did open up that we could do, and I say to every student now, do whatever you can. I don't care what it is. It
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the only thing I'm sort of slightly against is modern music, because it doesn't do the voice much good unless you can really look after it, and you need to have a really good technique
Yeah.
to do very modern music.
That's
the only thing I'm against.
Right, yeah.
Unless you know what you're doing. If you've got perfect pitch, I think that really does help. But to do musical theatre and anything that would give them some experience, because an awful lot of them start into opera and they pump themselves up, I'm an opera singer, instead of just saying, I'm going to sing a song.
Right.
And that's where they all fall down. They do not sing naturally and normally like it's a ballad or a folk song. And that's where we have to try and encourage them to do that.
Yeah, and kids today too, the way the careers are going, I feel that we were sort of nurtured, and I first was led by the hand. Yes, stand there, sing. Nowadays, the kids have to do it for themselves. They really have to promote themselves.
Choose what they have to sing.
Choose
and
what
it's
they
not
have to.
normally right.
It's not, and also be aware of all the things that are social media that are going to put them out there and make their careers, and sing, put together their own programs.
Yeah.
Put together a program.
When you first sang Figaro, then did someone say you should sing Figaro? Did they say, or you wanted to do that?
Oh, I had no idea. No,
so
they
then
said
the
you
next-
should do that. Yeah.
Then the next thing they'd say you should do this. So this
Yeah.
is where we were guided.
So there were these mentors who
these
would
are-
help shape.
She had a fantastic manager agent, and so did I. And I remember doing the Figaro and doing the different things. And they said, right, now you will now learn Arabella. I thought, Arabella, what's that? And then
Yeah.
now you will now learn Follard
Exactly.
songs. And now you will now learn Marshallin. And then
And
you will-
also perhaps to say, if you said, I want to do X or Y, not yet, wait a bit, to hold,
I
to
don't know
advise you
that bit.
to hold
Yeah,
back. a bit.
I didn't know enough to know.
We didn't know.
Right.
We sound stupid, we're not. It's just that we're so busy learning one thing, and then your manager or whoever's guiding you is hearing your voice going in another way and think, she'd suit this.
Yeah.
So they could hear what was in our voices where we couldn't.
And that's what they did then. And that's the way the managers and agents were.
And they cared.
And they cared, and they really knew their stuff. My manager said, in New York, said, we're going to do 3 French operas. And he essentially created 3
Well, he went to
concerts.
the opera houses and said, or wherever.
This will be
and said,
good
yes, yeah.
for you to do, and this is, and he put it together. He hadn't heard of any of the pieces, you know.
Which it's not stupid, it's just that they knew more than we did.
Right.
And we had to accept that their guidance was the best guidance, and it was.
And
If you look
that's
at the
what
careers-
they did too. And now you don't find that as much. You don't find the devotion of the managers. You know.
Well, they don't do it. They throw you out there and say, go sing. They take their 15% and move on to the next thing. They really don't. Some do care. I'm being fairly cruel, but an awful lot of them have got too many singers on their calendar,
Yeah.
and they're stretched, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And the offers come in and they'll simply accept them
Yeah.
because
And
it's work.
what I find, I don't know if it's happening in Great Britain now, but it's in the States are all these little companies that are starting, and they're just fantastic.
We have that here, which is really good.
Really
good,
exciting.
yes. Little fiddle, we've got the Grange, we've got Garsington, 2 lots of Grange.
Yeah.
We've got Buxton, we've got the ones down in Dorset, we've got
Loughborough.
Opera North, there's so many things and so many little festivals, even where I live.
Yeah.
Little festivals.
And it's terrific because it's becoming more and more complicated for the public to get to the theaters. I mean, in San Francisco, it's a nightmare to get to the opera house. And so these little local theaters,
They prefer.
they want to just spend 20 minutes getting
But
to the
also
theater.
the audience love to be felt that they're welcomed and attached to a little performance or a little company, local company, and then that's where it all grows from there.
And they
The
can
au-
get to know the singers.
Yes,
They can have a
exactly, and the
relationship.
And they
audience-
sort of adopt them, yeah.
But also, people don't realise the audience is the most important thing in the entire whole world. That's what we want, is an audience.
Yeah.
And to love it, especially here in Cardiff, it's
yeah.
amazing.
The excitement for this week.
It's great.
I'm just like,
We
I
can't
feel
wait.
like I'm playing for Manchester, like that.
One of the opportunities you have this week is to give advice and masterclasses and to talk to the competitors and just share some of your great wisdom with them. And that's something you both now are very keen on doing all the time. It's almost giving something back, isn't it? You're both very involved in philanthropy, both in terms of making things happen, but in terms of supporting individual careers. So almost taking on that role that the old-fashioned agents used to do.
But what we start, it also inspires a hope, and I think it has inspired other people to help. Where they can't give much money, they can assist in some ways. And my foundation, of course, has given money now to the Song Prize here, which I wanted to encourage because song is important. That's where we start.
Yes.
And if you don't start with
Yes.
song, where are you going to start?
Yeah.
So that's why I've been involved with that. But it's such a thrill to watch a young, beautiful voice start to develop, and their hopes and dreams. Like Katrina last year. I saw her just a few days ago, and she's so excited. Prince of Wales writes her a letter of congratulations. I mean, what's better than that?
Quite a thing, isn't it?
You know, he writes it out of the blue, fantastic, congratulations, and that's very important for this competition. And that's why I'm so involved, and I sort of really want to make this competition work for as long as I'm not gaga, and it will stay for as long as possible. But we've got some new ideas and better ideas for next time too.
And it really is very exciting, isn't it, the way that song has become so important in the competition. You know, it used to be a bit of a sort of add-on. Now it's absolutely the same stature as the main competition.
And the whole what's on this week is just
that's
fantastic.
down to the organisation of David Jackson and his team. He's done this, and I sort of have a small input and say, how about this and how about that? But we've made a lot more interest. And when I first joined the Cardiff Singer of the World, I felt it was a bit quiet and a little bit sleepy, and I thought, well, no, we need to kick up the you know what.
Well, you certainly managed that.
Yeah.
No, but that's what it is. That's the audience love it, and they're involved, and that's what I'm keen to see, the audience, the excitement in the audience, because that's what the kids need, and that's what the audience needs, and we're all in this together.
Going back to the two of you and this friendship that goes back to 1971.
Well, it's teetering. It's teetering.
teetering.
It's on the edge.
Doesn't seem it. Presumably, you would have periods where you would work together lots, and then you might not work together for a couple of years. I mean, that's the nature of the business.
But then we go fishing.
Yeah.
Then we go fishing.
You're fishing on the boat.
Tell us about that in a second. But just trace the kind of the on-stage meetings that you had.
Well, we actually haven't. You know, in operas we haven't done that much. We did Rosenkavalier in Paris. And then quite a few concerts together, which was so much fun.
We did Figaro. It's just Rosenkavalier and Figaro, isn't it? The only two, really.
Yeah. And you go...
Kiri on disc, of course. In fact, I mentioned that I was talking to you on my morning programme on Radio 3 this week, and someone immediately texted saying that your Kiri was the most vocally beautiful Fiordaligia Dorabella on record. So I think that's something.
Keep it like that. Don't
ask
any more questions.
That's it.
Alain Lombard.
Yes, I'm sure there are other better, but
was the conductor of that. But where do you fish?
New Zealand, but we were in Baja. We were in Mexico fishing, and caught the biggest dorado in the world. 46 kilos, wasn't it? It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so we went on Flicker and Mike's boat. We flew down there, and we arrived in Mexico, I think it was, and we couldn't find our luggage. We had to do something strange with luggage, and then the bus took Kevin and I out to the plane, which was way in the distance, in the dark, down this dirty little dark road. And we said, well, where's the luggage? And suddenly this tiny little trolley going tick, tick, tick with 3 silver suitcases. I said, Kevin, there's our luggage. No, I said, the bus, don't pass them. Let him go first, because the luggage will get on the plane. We just got off. Right, then we're going to do some work, weren't we? We're going to San Francisco.
That's right.
And you had the dog, and then the dog was going to sit on the tarmac in the heat of 40 degrees, and she said, that dog is not sitting on the tarmac in a crate. So she said, I'm staying back with the dog.
Yeah.
So from Baja, wasn't it?
Baja, very...
And then they came down to New Zealand to the house, and we went fishing in New Zealand.
And do you fish in silence, or do you talk, or do you sing?
I have no idea. Fishing's normally quite silent.
It is silent.
Until a fish gets on, then screaming.
Yes,
then it's
come here, no, wait, go backwards, stop the boat.
Yes. Back up, go forward, stop.
Yeah. How do you perceive how opera in America is seen these days? Because I mean, you've sung for goodness knows how many presidents. Certainly George Bush, certainly Barack Obama, and I think several more besides.
Not lately. Oh dear, did I say that on television?
That timing was almost Romanesque.
Okay, that's enough.
Do you think there's been an opera gala at the White House in recent years?
No. I think they probably can't spell it.
That might be coming.
Maybe.
They can't spell it.
Oprah, not opera. Yeah, no. But I think there is that sense, isn't there, that opera singers have been, are there at Lincoln Center, at the Kennedy Center, at all those big galas, always at the White House traditionally, and it's just been part of kind of American establishment culture. I wonder if that is not specifically because the current president, but whether that is a bit threatened.
That was really created too by Mrs. Kennedy. You know, a lot of that enthusiasm, the Kennedy Center, all of that was very much thanks to her, and promoted afterwards. You know, now it's changing. It's, you know, I don't think that opera in the big scope has.
It's alive and well, though. Not just because of the White House. It's alive and well everywhere, in the little theatres and the little festivals.
You cannot put down the magnificence of the natural voice of what's there, and the fact that it's the only place that it's not mechanical anymore, or you know, it's throat to ear, and I find that people are loving that more and more and more in the States, especially. These little theaters are, nobody needs to be mic'd. They don't, you know, worried so much about acoustic. The subjects of operas are very pertinent. They're very much part of today. That's a success of Jake Heggie, and Jake is one of many fabulous young composers in the States.
Because Jake was here.
Yeah.
We did a concert in the Wigmore Hall. John Gilder-Hooley gave us the Wigmore Hall for the evening, which was just the most wonderful fundraiser. And Jake came and played for my students and played his own music, which was really.
And you've sung in his operas, and yes. He does seem to be, and he's not the only contemporary American opera composer who is breaking through and reaching new audiences.
He has singable music, which is really beautiful. That's
really,
the best thing of all.
Really beautiful.
And lovely words. He uses gorgeous words.
He's a real man of letters, a beautifully educated human being, and a sweetheart, and it's a magic combination.
It's a shame he's not here. We should bring him here one year, because he's just the most delicious person and so sweet.
And he's great to have a composer on the jury.
Yeah, well, I think we'll try and encourage it next time.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah.
But just going back to what we were saying, but we shouldn't worry, therefore, that, you know, if the Met's not going to sell every one of its 3,000 plus seats, 4,000. It's actually it's the fact that the form is changing. It's not dying. It's changing. It's reinventing itself.
The Met has promoted a lot of it, and people want to see it. But to go to the Met today is incredibly expensive.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, Glyndebourne now. Someone said the seats are £250 a seat. They actually should throw in dinner, I think, for that.
Yeah.
God, £250 each.
That's a huge consideration for
a lot of people.
For a lot of people.
For most people, 99% of people.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if you had, say, you bought 10 nights at Glyndebourne, for instance, there should be some sort of a deal that you got the 10 nights plus dinner. Would be nice. Not that I've said that to Danny or to Gus, but I think they should be bringing the audience in rather than.
But it is an expensive art form, isn't it? And there's no way around that. You know, you take.
But we're all broke.
But you take.
We're broke.
You take people. So when I take friends to the opera who haven't been before but know theatre, one of the first things they often say is, "God, how can there be so many people on stage?" You know, when you have a chorus of 30, 40, 50 people, which you would never get in any other form of theatre now. When you have kind of incredibly elaborate sets and stagings for perhaps a run that's only 8 or 9 performances, it is by its very nature an expensive art form.
It has to be subsidized, you know.
But there are an awful lot of people out there who suddenly give £250,000 for a new production, just like that. And I've heard of it so many times that people are very happy to give money for performances and to be involved with the opera company, which is really, really nice.
And it's a status for a city. You know, it becomes like the San Francisco Opera is one of the jewels in the crown of the city of San Francisco. The Opera House here is incredible, the Millennium. I think it takes on the pride of the city. It presents the city in a very special way.
And people like to come to a beautiful theatre.
Yeah.
And I remember interviewing a few years back the mayor of Detroit, who, you know, Detroit's a city that's had terrible economic troubles, but he was saying actually the one thing we're proud of is we've kept the opera going. Michigan Opera has kept going throughout this trouble. The orchestras kept going. These are important things when times are tough that people can hang on to.
Exactly. And you appreciate what the beauty of music, what it does for people. That's why it's so many young people have never heard anything as beautiful as an opera, or seen anything as beautiful as some of the paintings here. You know, it's important. They have to have this. It's part of their future, their legacy. So I just pray that opera stays
Well,
forever.
I think so many young people just sitting there looking at their screens. I was in Japan a few weeks ago, or months ago, and everyone on that train was in this device. And I'm thinking, nobody's looking out the window, just nobody. And people are walking into you. They get run down by cars and things. And somewhere along the line, I'd say to a lot of the students, okay, put the phone in the corner. Leave it down there for an hour, and they'd keep looking at it, thinking,
What am I missing?
It's true.
Missing something. What?
I know.
So you didn't win the lotto, and you never will win the lotto on that stupid device.
Yeah.
So I think
We've got 10 minutes or so left. Let's open the floor, because I'm sure people will have some questions that they want to ask Kiri or Flicker. Who would like to pose a question? Yes.
You both teach, and you talked about the young singers. How do you touch the heart with the voice? You can make the sound. The young ones make the sound.
Yeah.
But that gift of touching the heart, how do you do it? How do you teach it?
Well, I've had one experience. I had one young singer. He's actually going to be performing Escamillo at Covent Garden in July, so that's really exciting. But he was just starting. This was a few years ago. Sorry,
Is this Philip?
Philip, yeah.
Oh.
And anyway, so he came and he was singing this aria. I can't remember what it was. It was about his sister. The sister was dying or ill, or he's going to lose his sister. And then I said, okay, it's your daughter. And with that burst of tears, just absolutely, he drained out of him. And I said, now, that's what I want in the song.
That's fabulous.
And I said, I don't want you crying, but I want that. And it's the only way to break them down, because an awful lot of them they're frightened of the emotion. And in Russian, None But the Lonely Heart was another one. I said, now sing it. And I made him sing it till he actually realized what he was singing. And that did it too. So I said, now that is what I'm looking for every time you sing. I want the intention of whatever the story is whether it's heartbreaking or it's joyous or whatever. I want to bring that bit out, and I know it's inside you, and that will come out. And I say, no, it's still not there. It's not there. And you keep singing it till I feel that you've actually got it.
Yeah.
And so you wait and you wait till they break down and finally give in to the emotion of what they should be doing.
And is that how you did it when you were singing? Because an actor would do that, wouldn't they? Would get into the character, would think so much about the text, and it is harder for a singer, partly because often it's a language that's not a first language, but nonetheless, it's finding that kind of emotion.
I just feel for every time I walked on stage, I had 10 people around me helping me, sort of saying, you can do it, go, no, don't sing that note. Yeah, it's a team.
It takes a team for one singer.
And it takes you too, it's that great appreciation. As you said before, without the public, what are we doing? Nothing.
Sing in the bath.
Sing in the bath. Yeah. And the kids, so many of, at least the kids at, I don't teach voice, but I sing I work with the kids at the conservatory in San Francisco. And that excitement when all of a sudden you see that they feel it, and that they're not thinking about the high note, they're not scared, they're not preparing, they're actually just doing it, and it comes across so clearly, and you can see it in their face. They get excited by it, and that's what it's about.
And I think this is what we're going to see in these 20 singers. Each one have reached a certain standard and stage of their lives that this is where they'll be.
Right.
They're right up there now, I would say.
And we're lucky in that we have this exquisite music that takes you there. You almost can't help but you can't indulge in it. No, I think, I remember doing a performance of Peleas in Santa Fe, and there was one performance when we thought, oh my God, I bled on the stage. I just gave everything I had, and then the next night, all I could think of was, I think I'm going to have a ham sandwich when I go home, because I'm really, really hungry. And the director came and said, the performance tonight, when you weren't feeling it so much, was better.
Really?
Because it was based on the real feeling, but I wasn't keeping it for myself.
Yeah.
I was giving it over rather than keeping it.
Yeah.
That's why you can't sort of go through it, I think.
And just to pick up on what you said about audiences, would there be a night in the run of 8, 10 performances where there would be something about the audience that would be extra special and that would sort of drive, you would come off and say, that was a great audience?
Oh yeah, I think so. Often when it rained. You know, because I think people were just grateful to be dry.
Dry and warm.
And they were and Glyndebourne.
After the interval.
Oh, after the interval, we were terrific.
The smell of the wine was.
So you smell the booze fumes
Oh my
from
God,
the
it
audience.
was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were, it was great. You know?
Thank you, that was a brilliant question.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Well, yes, two. Yes, we'll start on the outside.
Okay. I'd like to know which role you consider to be the most difficult to sing.
What role is the most difficult to sing?
Each and every one. Note by note by note.
Yeah, each and every one.
Yeah,
I would,
they
I
were
would
never
agree.
easy. They were
Yeah.
never easy. Because
I'm not sure I'm going to let you off the hook that easily.
No, because you'd start, you open the page and you've learned one, okay, you take several weeks to learn it and you work with the pianist. And I learned very quickly to start at the end because I never got to the end. And, you sort of, in finales and things like that, they thought, oh my God, so you're having to learn the finale while you're already almost in the opera.
Right.
So that was something, but it was all hard work. And I would take the whole 6 weeks of my holiday, 2 hours from 10 till 12 on my holiday, and I'd sit down with the tapes, and because I'd have done it with the pianist, note by note by note, and then he'd play the accompaniment without the notes, and that for 6 weeks, that's what I do every day.
Yeah.
And I never gave up on that. So that's how we learnt it. So it was hard work. So it was hard earned, and so yes, everything was difficult. I suppose Strauss was the most difficult for me. Strauss, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the easiest things could be the hardest because it's either the diction is hard or the rhythms are hard, something. But it's always
None of it's
tricky.
easy.
None of it, yeah.
None of it's
And
easy.
what these unbelievable young singers have prepared for this week,
Yeah.
I'm so impressed, deeply impressed, But, from a public point of view, too, for you all the encouragement, all the times that you wait to talk to a young singer or bother to write them a note is so special. Those things build. I notice we have a wonderful young artist program in San Francisco, and all of the people that have nurtured these artists, they're close to after 50 years. They're their best friends because they've been there. They've showed up for you many times. So we're really grateful to all of you.
So if we love someone in a show, we should write them a card. We should send them a note.
I'd love it.
So,
Yes. And there weren't there standards? I always felt in the beginning of my career that you never went to a performance of a colleague that you didn't go backstage or send a note backstage or leave something. And those things have sort of disappeared a little bit, and we need to put them back. They're special.
But it's also about getting a sense that every performance is a momentous event, isn't it? There shouldn't be any such thing as a kind of, it's the 13th performance and we're
Right.
on tour and
Yeah.
it's a wet night
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone has got to be
Well,
magical.
we have to think of it like that
Right.
as a performer.
Yeah.
There's no performance you go in and say, okay, you've done the first night, it's a big first night, you're all absolutely tired. Second night's coming up, and I remember they said second night will be your worst night. You think, so back to the drawing board, back to the
Right.
teacher, back to the pianist, back and say, no, the second night's got to be good, got to be good.
Yeah.
And I would always make sure I went back and really worked for the second night because I was terrified that someone was going to say, well, that wasn't very good tonight. I was terrified of that,
Yeah.
of being told,
Yeah.
you didn't give enough. So the pressure was always on, but that's what we loved. And
Oh,
now
and
it's off.
it's exciting. Yeah, it's kind of nice.
There was another question.
Yes, art song is important to me. How would you prepare, if you were giving a recital, how would you prepare to deliver art song? Because you stood on stage, and how would you prepare for that? Because you sing with your eyes, really, when you're doing leader or French song. How would you, the two of you, prepare?
How would you prepare for a leader recital, an art song recital?
My feeling is that everything's a ballad, everything's a folk
story.
song, and tell the story and believe in the story.
Yeah.
In fact, more
You're
often than not, I would
absolutely right.
choose the words before the music, because the words are so important, whatever language it's in. But to me, that's the beauty of song is, to me, very special.
And what it means, it's interesting in choosing your songs too, of what means something to you. When you mentioned that when you were working with a young singer and you had them sing something else that you know means a great deal to them. Very often some of these kids they're coming from China, they barely speak English, they're asked to sing in French or Italian or Russian, and so they've got many barriers in front of them, and it's quite an accomplishment to achieve what they've achieved. But when you really want to get their heart, you say, well, do you have a folk song in China that you love, or in Japanese, or you know?
And that's why when I was at the school, and I'd say, okay, we're all going to sing at each your own national anthem. And it's amazing when you get someone like from Japan or Guatemala or Ukraine or any of these countries sing your national anthem. It's amazing what they do. They stand up proud, almost saluting. I say, right, now sing the song just like that.
Yeah.
And then you put that, you just try to get them to sort of connect with how patriotic or how they feel in their heart of their national anthem, as long as they're proud of it, of course, but things that is important. To make sure that same input goes into the song with the same heartfelt feeling, not the sort of anything more than just the heart working.
It's funny, because I'm sure we've all been to song recitals where it hasn't quite caught fire, and then as an encore they do a folk song. And you think, oh, why wasn't that right at the beginning? Just opened
absolutely.
up a whole new world. Another question,
I'm lucky enough to live in Cardiff, the home of Welsh National Opera, and I'm also fortunate to have a daughter that has been fortunate enough to be part of their youth programme that starts from the age of 10. She's been singing for a couple of years. What advice, as her parent, would you give to me of things to expose her to, for music for her to listen to, so she continues to be as passionate about opera as she seems to be currently?
Is she 10?
She's now 12.
Oh, she's 12, okay.
Yeah.
Very young.
Yeah.
I take it very gently.
Very gently. Yeah.
And let her see, watch, listen to everything, but not necessarily do. So a little choir is very, very healthy. And then sometimes she might get one solo line if she's lucky, until she's 15, 16, and then it's a waiting game if this is what she's going to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise she might go into something slightly different. But opera's a big one if they want to.
What about children's operas and things like Nurse Love, for example, or indeed Brindabau, which W&O are doing, aren't they? Does she?
Oh, she's done. Oh, great.
Which I think we might even get to see, because it's next weekend, isn't it?
Yes,
It's always nice to make sure that you treat it gently, because the disappointment if something happens, the disappointment is huge, and then they look at you and say, how did I do this? So it's more being careful and cautious at this stage.
Well, bravo her for getting into that.
Yes.
One more question,
As a young singer, first of all, thank you for being inspirational. I was wondering, as far as the Cardiff Singer of the World competition goes, considering how subjective and personal people's voices are and personalities on the stage are, how do you know when you found the one, the performer, the singer, the voice?
Good question. How do you know when you found the one out of the 20 people who are taking part in Cardiff Singer?
The one I look for most of all is, did they choose the right song? The number one is the choice of song. If it's too much for them, you'll see it happen by almost to the end of the opera. You'll say, too much. So if they sing the right song, and they can sing it from start to finish, right through, gloriously, like Katrina did with the Handel. It was the simplest song, sung with brilliance, but it's the most difficult song, and no one can understand it until they sing it. But something like Dido's Lament is not easy, is it?
No.
It's not easy, but sung with her capacity. She was far in excess with her training and what she did of the song, the aria, but she was able to, because it was so in her control, that the aria was not beyond her, it was within her. And that's what I was looking for. I thought, my God, that's
So
just
that is the
gorgeous.
most important thing.
It is.
Yes,
the
that's
choice
all
of
I look
repertoire.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so
choice.
important. Yeah.
My big mistake was singing Pace Pace Mio Dio. Rubbish! So I went back on that one and said that's where I made my big mistake and was bawled out for it. Absolutely right. And it was stupid, but I loved the aria. And basically always had that thought that I should never have sung it. So that's where my mistake was.
And it's a big one. It's a big subject of knowing the right thing to. And when I started singing opera, I got the anthology of mezzo-soprano arias, and I thought, oh, if I'm going to be a mezzo-soprano, I have to sing everything in this book. And some of them were like, oh, Don Fatale, and it was like Minnie Mouse was singing it. And, and I didn't get any of those jobs. And that's when I think when you know you're devoted to your path, I had trouble admitting it, is when you get many rejections, and you think, well, I'm still going back. Why are you going back? To be knocked in the head again? Because you just got to do it. You got to do it. And if ever kids say, well, I don't know if I really should do this, and should I? If you have any question, don't do it. You know, you've got to have that almost slightly crazy impulse to go there and to keep trying for what it is, you know.
But
So if
also
you're
don't
uncertain,
try-
there's a reason why you're uncertain.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But also going for the best advice that you can. If you really trust somebody and they give you the best advice, then go by that. But I've seen singers so many times say, well, who chose that song? I did. I said, your teacher? Well, my teacher said no. But, oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So you're paying your teacher all this money and you go against the teacher's advice?
Yeah.
And you think, oh, well, they'll learn. And you only learn by mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the best one.
Let me ask one final question, which is whether, Kiri, you officially retired from the stage and from singing, but do you still sing? Do you alone in your house
Not a
or
note.
friends or not a
Not a
note?
note.
Never.
I do not want to hear my voice. I hear it there.
Yeah.
And that's where it was.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I'm 75. I mean, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's enough. I've done 50 years of
Yeah.
this career.
Yeah.
Not too many people do that. They're normally sitting behind a desk and everyone's sort of helping them, when you're sort of going gaga. But I didn't want to go gaga, and they said, get the hook and pull her off stage.
yeah.
I needed to get off stage in my way, so I did. And I don't miss it. But you still sing, right?
Here and there, but really more there than here, or here than there.
What would be the reason? What would attract you now to go back to the stage, or to go back to the concert platform, whatever? What would make you think, yeah, I want to do this?
I did a project last year that I did to sort of honor one of my family members, and I was so glad I did it, even with, the obvious signs of age in my voice. But I was playing a sort of 75-year-old person, so it was fine. But it was because it was the subject. It was about two ladies who had Alzheimer's, and just the whole subject fascinated me. The way they approached it, because you can't be medical or technical. You have to trust the story, and the story, rather than informing about the disease, is what's important. It's the story of these people, and you can't lose track of the fact that because they have a disease, they're no less people. They are people, and they have their own stories. And so I loved it. I really loved doing that. So if there were maybe something related, I love these ideas of putting together evenings of Schubert or evenings of French music and being maybe a narrator with young singers around. The quality of singing in these young people is so fabulous, and so it's fun to be around them. That's what I find exciting.
It keeps us sort of
it really does.
vibrating.
Yeah, and you get excited. You hear something like that, and it's, whether you were an opera singer or not, it would excite you.
It's like everything, with Philip Rhodes, he's going to be doing, as I say, Escamillo in July at Covent Garden. And he just wrote a lovely thing, or someone, I think must have been an interview, and he said, how did I get from there to here. I could have been, as his father said, at Her Majesty's service. I could have been a drug addict. I could have been absolutely down, spiraling down. And we got him out. We got him out, and after, I think it's now 10 years, he's got a life. You know, he's got an amazing life from being completely abused, 6 children abused by the father. Mother's still alive. She's of no consequence whatsoever because she's been so brutalized by the father. Yet they were fostered by this one man, and this boy Philip had to appear in court for his mother, and this father took this man who fostered him, and his 5 sisters took them in and gave them love and life and direction. And that's
Didn't know that about. That's
no.
Wow.
So he was either a gang member or he was close to it, but it was violent. I mean, totally violent. I mean, I think he was somewhere along the line. Someone was thrown out the window. I don't know.
And we say casually that music can change lives, but it really can.
Oh my
He
goodness.
says it has. He said it, and it's in one of the articles. One of my trustees wrote back from New Zealand. They said, Philip, way back in many years ago, used to sing "To Dream the Impossible Dream."
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. That.
So it gets me.
Yeah.
I think we're going to leave it there. We've had some glorious stories from you. I think we're all going to think what might have happened had you stayed in the service of Ethel Merman.
I would probably be able to speak a little louder. Yeah.
And I love the idea of the two of you going around messing up the quail's eggs and the asparagus tips.
And
at Glyndebourne.
the caliber of these picnics was pretty fantastic.
Lobster and stuff.
Lobster,
nice.
not
Yes.
A wonderful
peanut
week
butter
lies
and
ahead,
jelly.
and you two are
Thank
going to
you,
be
and
absolutely
thank
at
you
the
to the
heart of it.
audience.
Frederica Von
Thank you.
Stade and Dame Kiri to Kanawa.